What's up, YouTube? I am the Venom the Nerd, and today I am going to do an Iron Man armor tier list. I am super excited to make this video. It's something I've been wanting to do for a while, and I can't wait to talk all about it. But first, as always, I want to give a spoiler warning. I will only be doing minor spoilers for these movies, but a big part about the armor and one of the ways I'll be grading it is what did it actually do in the film? Was it cool? Did it have some cool scenes attached to it? Or was it kind of underutilized? Things like that. So if you haven't seen these movies and don't know what Iron Man does in them, well, maybe you should get out now because Iron Man's really cool and you should absolutely watch these movies in order to enjoy it to the fullest. So spoiler warning for Iron Man in the MCU. Get out now if you want to. First, I want to lay down some ground rules for how I will be ranking these armors and tier ranking them. So I'll be grading them mainly on aesthetics, what do they look like, and showcase, what do they do in the movie? Were they involved with some cool fight scenes, or were they kind of underutilized? We'll see how it shapes out, but those are the big two things I'll be judging it by. And before I get any further, this is going to be very subjective. What do I like, not other people like, but hopefully those ground rules will give some logic and help you understand a little bit about why I think the way I do. And that's kind of cool. Another thing for those who have never seen a tier list before for some odd reason, most of them go S through D, like this one. Sometimes they include E and F. Sometimes people change the names. I stuck with the classic S, A, B, C, D. So I didn't want to come up with any punny names for each of the tiers, so we're just going to go with this. It goes top to bottom, so S tier is the top, it's the best, those are the cool armors. D tier is really bad armors, and we won't go much further than that. And lastly, I feel the need to prepare some people who don't know this, but the Iron Man armors are denoted by Mark and then a number based on where they're at, where Iron Man's at in his armor building days. So the Mark 1 is the suit he built in a cave. The Mark 85 is his very last suit that appears on screen. Not that we actually have seen all 85 suits. It is believed that in the time between Infinity War and Endgame that he made a number of suits between those two. And so we haven't seen every single suit. We don't have concept art for every single suit. And it's not like I'm going to go through 85 suits here. I'm going to be just tackling the main suits that he uses in these movies. You'll see as we get into it. But without any further ado, let's talk about the Mark 1. Okay, so the Mark 1. He built this in a cave with a box of scraps. It's a great suit. It's absolutely A tier for me. The only reason it's not S tier is because it kind of is a lame suit, like it doesn't actually, work for forever. It is a prototype and just a means of escape. I get that, so I'm not bashing it for that, but it's not S tier because it doesn't have all the cool features, all the bells and whistles and stuff. From the front, it's very intimidating and very cool, but from the back, you can see all the gears and all the belts turning and stuff to make it work. And so, definitely some aesthetic choices that are a little ugly in terms of an Iron Man suit, but in terms of like a Mark 1, what I think is believable to be built in a cave, I think this is 100% believable, and I absolutely love the costume design that went into this suit and making it work and function, and just it looks so good. It worked so well for the scenes it was in, so it's absolutely an A tier, even though it's like not the most powerful suit or anything. The flamethrowers were cool, the flight was cool, the wrist-mounted rocket was cool. Great suit all around, great way to introduce Iron Man. Love the Mark 1, A tier for sure. Moving on, we have the Mark II. This was his all chrome / silver suit that he made in his garage, where he flew for the first time. Pretty cool, and I also give it some credit for being the suit that Rhodey wears and the chassis that the first War Machine was built off of, which is pretty cool. But I definitely think it's B tier. It didn't do anything crazy cool. I like that it flew. I like that it did some stuff, but it was always meant to be a prototype, and the Mark III was where it was at for the first movie. So definitely B tier. Next, we have the Mark III, and in a bit of a hot take, I'm going to put it as a B. Aesthetically, it's perfect. It is exactly what I think Iron Man should be. It's got the right gold, the right red. It looks cool. It's awesome. And the scene where he goes and takes on the terrorists is great. The scene where he fights the F-22 fighter jets is really cool. All of that's great. My problem is this suit always leaves me with a bitter taste in my mouth because in the end battle, it's depowered. It's not at its full capacity, and it's really frustrating. I know that for the narrative they were trying to tell, it worked really well. I think it was really smart. It was a really good way to weaken Tony Stark and make Obadiah Stane actually be able to put up a posable, believable threat there. So I think that all works, but it still frustrates me that the Mark III kind of had a really disappointing end to its story, with being powered by a weaker arc reactor. Again, it worked for the story, but that doesn't mean I like the armor. So yeah, Mark III is a B in my opinion. Moving on, we're going to skip the Mark IV because he barely wears that, and we're going to jump right to the Mark V, aka the briefcase suit. So this is the suit that he puts on in the middle of the F1 race. Yay. And my thing with the Mark V is that while it looks fine, the silver and red is pretty cool, and everything, it took him way too long to suit up. Like, I could not suspend my belief enough to think that Whiplash is just chilling there while he lets him, suit up. And I know he's currently pinned again between a car and a fence at that point, but still, I just think it takes too long for the suit to power up, as well as the fact that he never flies in the suitcase suit, and he has no extra weapons besides the main repulsor blast, which, admittedly makes sense because it has to fit in a suitcase, so you can't pack it full of weapons and stuff, but still, I think the Mark V is weak in a lot of ways. So I'm putting it in C tier. Fight me, if you will. Next, we've got the Mark VI, and this one is really, really cool. It is A tier, in my opinion. I think the triangle logo is arguably cooler than the circle logo, which is a theme you'll see moving forward, but anywho, beyond that, the Mark VI does a lot of cool stuff in Iron Man 2, where he flies around and beats up a bunch of drones. Like, that drone fighting scene just kind of made up for the really kind of lame fight the Mark III did against the Ironmonger back in Iron Man 1. I know some people will argue with that, but I love the drone fight, even though Iron Man 2 is bloated and problematic and issued, but what else. But the other thing that the Mark VI has going for it is that it's the first armor that is used in the Avengers, and this is the armor he fights Thor with, which is really cool. He intimidates Loki with it. He fixes the helicarrier with this armor. It's got a lot going for it. I love the Mark VI. It is a very cool armor and absolutely deserves A tier. I guess the thing holding back the Mark VI from being S tier, in my opinion, is just that it's never been my favorite suit. It looks cool, it does cool things, but it just isn't quite my favorite. I don't know. Maybe it's because it's attached to Iron Man 2, which, isn't the greatest movie. I don't know. I still like the Mark VI. It's absolutely high A tier, maybe borderline S, but take that what you will. Let's move on to the Mark VII. So the Mark VII is going to be our first S tier. I love the Mark VII. This was my favorite suit for the longest time. It did get outplaced eventually, but such a cool suit for a number of reasons. Firstly, it has like the beefier shoulders, which is a small detail, but it makes a big impact because that's where a bunch of little rockets shoot out of his shoulders, so he can take on the Chitauri all by himself. Oh yeah, reminder, he took on the Chitauri all by himself in the Mark VII, which is just so cool. Plus, the beefy shoulders allowed for some stabilizing thrusters to be in his back, so he could shoot his repulsor blasts without needing them for support, which is awesome and super smart, and a design he incorporated in later models. So I love the Mark VII for that, and it's just attached to the coolest fight scene at the end of Avengers 1. So yeah, the Mark VII is a no-brainer for me. It is S tier. It is so cool. It is so good. Such a good suit. Love it. But unfortunately, although we just had our first S, we are now going to have our first D tier ranking, and that is the Mark 42. I think a lot of people knew this was coming. The Mark 42 is a very problematic suit for two big reasons. It features prominently in Iron Man 3, and it is the suit that can break apart, right? Iron Man deactivates it and then is able to break it apart with his hands. A semi runs it over and it gets all broken up, and it just keeps happening. It's like a gag of the movie, which is really goofy and makes you think it's not that strong of an armor. Plus, on top of that, this armor throughout the entire movie had a plot point that it was struggling with power issues, which makes no sense. The arc reactor should be able to generate enough power that it doesn't cause a problem, but nevertheless, here we are. At one point, the suit was being charged by a boat battery, which, again, baffles me. I don't know why they went in this direction. And so the Mark 42 is very, very problematic. And look, I want to like the 42. I love the pale gold look that it has. I love all the various pieces flying to Iron Man. That creates some of the most fun suit-up scenes of all of Iron Man, is seeing all the pieces fly to him and jump on his body. That's all really cool. But this suit has so many issues that it just makes no sense. And I know what some people are thinking. Well, in Iron Man 1, the Mark III struggled with power issues. And 1, I already talked about how I don't like that scene. But 2 is the fact that I think that makes sense because it's an arc reactor that can only generate so much power, right? And it's being put in a suit that takes more power than the arc reactor can generate. And so therefore, it's losing power. It's losing its ability to replenish that power. Hence, the Mark III struggling with the weaker arc reactor. The Mark 42 does not have that. It does not have a weaker arc reactor. It should have an arc reactor strong enough to power it. And yet, it's constantly running out of power throughout this movie. And I get it's pseudoscience, right? This is just sci-fi nonsense. But at the end of the day, it wasn't entertaining to watch either. Like, I do not like watching Iron Man's armor run out of power. That is not an exciting obstacle for me to see him have to overcome. It's just not interesting, and I don't like it. So yeah, Mark 42, D tier, however much I want to like it. Now, you may be wondering about what happened to all the other suits between the Mark 7 in Avengers 1 and the Mark 42 in Iron Man 3. And they actually have an answer for that, right? Because if you've seen Iron Man 3, he has the house party protocol, he brings out all his armors, and some concept artists designed each and every single armor that took place between those two, which is kind of cool. And I think Iron Man should have a bunch of armors. Of course, though, this does cause problems and stuff, and I'm not going to go through every single armor, so I'm just going to call the house party in general as one armor. We're going to treat it that way, and that's going to be solid B tier. Look, I love the house party scene. I thought it was really fun seeing Iron Man jump in and out of suits left and right. It could only really work against those villains who are just destroying suits and melting through them and stuff, so I think it worked really well for the story it was in, and I honestly like that he just kind of blew up all his suits at the end because he's just like, yeah, I don't need these, and it kind of created a clean slate for future suits moving forward and not for us to be asking, hey, where are all these other suits? So overall, House Party is B. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. Moving on, we have the Mark 43, and this is the suit that he wears at the start of Avengers Age of Ultron. And look, I have no qualms with this suit. It actually has a really cool color scheme. I like how much gold highlights it has throughout the whole thing. I liked seeing him use it to take down the Hydra base as well as to fight Ultron a few times. I don't think it was ever meant to be the focus of this movie. And so it didn't do anything super special. So I don't think it's bad, but I don't think it's good. So I'm putting it in B tier for that reason. But what was the focus of Avengers 2 Age of Ultron? Well, that would be the Hulkbuster suit, aka Veronica, aka the Mark 44. So this suit is so cool. It is absolutely A tier in my opinion. It's never been my favorite suit because while I love a Hulkbuster specific suit, I don't love that as Iron Man's main suit. I think he should stay as a roughly humanoid, not Hulk-sized creature. So that's all good. But I love the Mark 44 on so many levels. One, the fact that it integrates with Iron Man's normal armor is really, really cool. The fact that it has spare parts floating off in a little, drone off to the side, very, very smart and works really, really well. And then that scene between the Hulkbuster and the Hulk was one of the best scenes out of Age of Ultron, one of my favorite scenes out of the entirety of the MCU, and it's just so cool, and at the heart of it is the Mark 44 Hulkbuster armor. So absolutely love the Hulkbuster. They did such a good job with it. They knew they needed to nail that, and they did. They knocked it out of the park. I love the Mark 44. All its gadgets, all its abilities, like the go to sleep and the jackhammer fist, or the fist that could grab Hulk's hand and cart him away and stuff. Its flight was cool. It worked so well. So love the Mark 44. Absolutely A tier for me. And that brings us to the Mark 45, which this one, I'm going to be a little harsh. I'm going to put it in D tier because it's the suit he wears at the end of Avengers Age of Ultron. He fights Ultron with it. He creates the heat sink to blow up the island so it doesn't function as a meteor, I guess. It's an okay suit, but I honestly think they didn't have time to render it because there are some very uncanny valley scenes with this suit in at the end of Avengers 2. And it's just a little too red. Like, I love the red and I love the look that they were trying to go for, but I think they just kind of dialed it up one too many notches to the point where it's like kind of an eyesore to look at the Mark 45. So looks alone is kind of why I have to put Mark 45 in D, on top of the fact that it just didn't do that much, right? Like, he uses his lasers to fight, and he has a few cool fight scenes, but nothing we haven't seen before from Iron Man. And then he shoots lasers to, blast off the vibranium, or at least help blast off the vibranium of Ultron. So that was kind of cool scene, but overall the Mark 45 is kind of forgettable and just a little too red. So yeah, D tier for me. Moving on to Captain America Civil War. In that movie, Iron Man primarily wears the Mark 46, which is a really cool suit. I love this suit. It looks good. It has the right red, the right gold. I think the red's a little bit deeper here. Has a cool chest plate that's a circle, but a little bit of a trapezoid going on there, which is good. But the other big thing with this suit is it was just a part of a number of cool fight scenes. Like, the airport scene was awesome, but especially at the end when he fights Captain America and the Winter Soldier, it was really awesome there. I absolutely love the scene where he catches Cap's shield. It's just so awesome and such a boss move. And anywho, Mark 46 is an A tier for me. I don't think it's S tier because it doesn't do enough for me to be cooler than the Mark 7, but it's still a really cool suit. So don't hate it, but don't love it per se. Either way, A tier, and that's where I'm putting it. Moving on to Spider-Man Homecoming, Tony Stark does make a cameo in that movie, and he wears an Iron Man suit. It's called the Mark 47, and it is absolute trash. I hate the Mark 47. It is in D tier. It is the suit that I absolutely hate, mainly because aesthetically it is the ugliest thing I've ever seen. I do not understand why they chose to make his abs and his thighs silver. It's like they forgot to paint it or something. And maybe that's what they were trying to go for, is like, hey, this suit is still being painted or worked on or something. I don't know, but it's stupid. It's dumb. I hate it so much. On top of the fact that this suit does next to nothing in, Spider-Man Homecoming. Like, it saves a cruise ship, yay, or a ferry. But besides that, it's like, yeah, it doesn't really do a whole lot, and it doesn't look cool, and it's just frustrating. I do not like the Mark 47. It is not a good suit. And yeah, it's going in D tier for me. But thankfully, after something as horrendous as the Mark 47, we move to Infinity War, where we have the amazing, the wonderful, the Mark 50. My favorite Iron Man suit of all time. It is S tier, in case you didn't get that enough already. I absolutely love the Mark 50. It is so good. Such a cool suit. You gotta understand, I did not watch any of the trailers going into Avengers Infinity War. I watched it, completely blind, and I had no idea what I was in for with the nanotech suit. It was so cool. I love seeing it form around his body. I love seeing all the various creations he made with it. I love how it could literally make anything that Iron Man could dream up. It was awesome. And I love the look of it too. Like, its sleek look. It, it lacks that kind of bulkier armor look. It conforms perfectly to his body, so it just works so well. And I love that. And I love the fact that, like, it only has a certain number of nanobytes. So, he drains his storage of nanobots there to make things, and it causes problems at the end. The Mark 50 is so cool, and it's part of so many cool scenes, and I love how he goes one-on-one versus Thanos, and it's just, some might say that I made this entire tier list just to gush over the Mark 50, and you wouldn't be entirely wrong. Thing is, I will eventually review Infinity War, and when I do, I will not hesitate to talk just as much about the Mark 50 and all the ways I love it, probably in a little bit more detail than I can go into here. But for now, I just want to say I love the Mark 50, but I do understand if people don't like it as much because of the nanotech, because of the fact that it kind of removes the physical armor look of it, and it kind of becomes this sci-fi space magic. I get that. But to those people, I say, this is Iron Man's second to last movie. He deserves to have a really cool send-off. He deserves to have an overpowered suit that he can do whatever the heck he wants with all day. I love it. I love it so much. Moving on to Avengers Endgame, let's talk about the Mark 85. And in a bit of a controversial hot take, I'm going to put this in B tier. I know it's basically the Mark 50 and maybe even a little better since it can create holographic shields among other things. But the thing with the Mark 85 is that it's really not used that well. It's not used that much, I should say. Because besides his fight with Thanos and his jump off of Avengers Tower, which, by the way, excellent callback to the Mark 7. Love that. One of my favorite suits. But besides those two scenes, the Mark 85 just doesn't show up a whole lot, right? And the other thing with the Mark 85 is that I don't love the look of it, right? It has these gold arms and in particular golden shoulders. Like when I look at this suit, it almost makes me think that Iron Man is wearing a tank top, an iron tank top, which isn't terrible, I guess, per se, but I don't love that look. I definitely prefer the red shoulders of the Mark 50. That is a much cooler suit in my opinion than the Mark 85. And the thing with the 85 is the arms have grown on me. I do recognize it's kind of an ode to the Silver Age comics where Iron Man had golden shoulders. So that's fine, but I still don't love the look, so it's definitely going to go in B tier. And it just doesn't do that much for the show. So up on the screen, I have the full tier list rankings, and that's really cool. I love that I got to do this. Thanks for coming along with me in this exercise. The thing I do want to say kind of as some final thoughts is that the distance between S tier and D tier is not that big. I still love the Mark 42 and the Mark 45 and the Mark 5. Mark 47 I could do without. I wish they'd given that a better paint scheme, but you can't get everything, I guess. But the point is most of the suits that were designed for these movies were excellently designed. And they had really cool gadgets, and the people were really smart with how they used them. And I just love all of the armors that Iron Man gets to wear. They were such a strength to the MCU and something that made his superhero just so cool and stand out and be unique. I mean, I know a lot of people have mech armors of some form or another, but his is just distinctly Iron Man. And they were able to maintain a consistent kind of aesthetic and schematic to his look throughout all these movies that all of the artists, all of the people who worked to make these suits come to life just deserve all the credit in the world because it was such a cool and fun part of each and every MCU movie. Even if the movie was bad, like Iron Man 2 or Iron Man 3, the suits were a bright spot in the sea of bad of those narratives and stuff. And the thing is, I know that it's not just the suit. The actor, Robert Downey Jr., did a phenomenal job bringing the character of Tony Stark to life and making that character compelling and believable, and he deserves a ton of credit too. But for the purposes of this video, I just want to say I absolutely love the armors of Iron Man, and I think they're so cool, and I'm so glad I got to talk about each and every one here in this video. Yeah. Thanks for watching. I guess comment, subscribe, tell me which suit's your favorite. That'd be interesting. Love to hear why you disagree or agree with my tier list. Let's we'll talk about it down below.